Wagwan. Good morning, good night. Welcome back. And if you're listening for the first time, welcome to episode 6 of The Real Situation, where we give you a taste of Jamaican politics. I'm your host, Melanie Byfield, and in this series, we're focusing on Jamaica's journey to becoming a republic. So let's have a recap of where we are, Wagwan, since we last met. After 62 years, independent Jamaica is on the road to transitioning from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. Why? Because the journey not done. The highest representative of Jamaica is an English king. The 1962 Constitution, which granted Jamaica independence and which represents the highest law of the land, is a colonial document. And Jamaica's highest court of appeal is the Privy Council in London. This is the first of 3 phases of constitutional reform, and right now we're in phase 1, focusing on changes to the fully entrenched provisions of the Constitution, which are to remove the monarchy, that is King Charles III as head of state, to transition from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic, and to amend the colonial instrument known as the Second Schedule of the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962 under the West Indies Act of 1962, and to Jamaicanize it into a constitution by the people, for the people, becoming the Constitution of Jamaica. There will need to be a referendum, and the people of Jamaica will have to say yes or no to the proposed amendments. And this is required because those proposals, the proposed changes, are deeply entrenched. So, on March 22, 2023, a 15-member Constitutional Reform Committee was introduced to the Republic. Remember that? And that is also when they had their first meeting. Their final meeting was on April 24, and they submitted a report in May of 2024 with recommendations which have since been tabled in Parliament as a ministry paper. Mark Golding, the leader of the opposition, prepared a document basically outlining the issues that his party, the PNP, do not agree with, the biggest one being the final court of appeal. And the argument is that Jamaica will not be fully independent while retaining the Privy Council, which is a colonial final court of appeal. The Caribbean Court of Justice has been suggested to replace the Privy Council since Jamaica's a member of CARICOM, was instrumental in establishing the court, and has invested financially in the court's creation. So what's been going on this week? So think back to what I just said. The CRC was introduced and held its first meeting on March 22nd, 2023, right? They submitted a report of recommendations that was submitted in May of 2024 and tabled in Parliament as a ministry paper, right? Well, on July 25, 2024, for the first time, a town hall meeting was held at Emancipation Park, Kingston, the capital city of Jamaica. The first one in Kingston, capital city of Jamaica. Okay, so not only does this car have a flat tire, I feel like it run out of gas, you know. Yeah, and not only did the town hall meeting start 30 minutes late, people were then being restricted by the amount of time that they had to talk. Mr. Christopher Malcolm, who was the moderator, was like, no bother with that. We don't want a bag of chat. Not a time for that. Okay, so who was there? Which CRC members were there? The chairman, Marlene Malahou Fort, was present, and Dr. Elaine McCarthy, who was the chairman of the umbrella group of churches, was there. Those are the CRC members who were present. So who got up to talk? There was some interesting conversation that took place. There was a gentleman called Don Foote from Westmoreland. He referenced the April 2024 Jamaica Gleaner article called No 2025 Republic, and that was basically about Hugh Small's comments on how there hasn't been enough time for public engagement. There was another lady, Dawn Marie Roper. She's very excited about the process and she supports what's being proposed, and she doesn't want to see it stop if there's a change of party at the next election. Peter Townsend was there representing the National Democratic Movement. He feels like the committee's already made up its mind about the model of the Republic, and he was referencing an RJR Don Anderson poll where 79% of the people, of the public, want a directly elected president, not an appointed ceremonial president. So he asked a question: will people be given a choice to vote on a ceremonial versus an executive president? Ms. Malahoo Fort felt like the question about the executive president is being more directed towards the election of a prime minister. And with regards to the question itself about the executive versus the ceremonial president, she stated that it really boils down to the Constitution requiring that a bill is passed by Parliament, which is then approved by the electorate in a referendum. So that decision of the type of president, if there is one, would be encompassed in the bill. And the people are voting on the bill. Another gentleman was there, Heru I Shakamusa Menelek from Marcus Garvey People's political party. And he commented how the people must be intimately involved in this process. Haile Mikhail Cudjoe from We the People Republic was there. He is literally at every town hall meeting. He has a draft that his organization has prepared of a constitution. And he was asking questions about how much money's been spent so far, which Ms. Malahoo Fort declined to answer since she's not responsible for no money. Who else was there? Okay, so there was a gentleman, Odini Sibley, who doesn't want to start over and wants to keep the king. Okay, and it was stated that, brethren, you're in a minority, but he was asking, what success will Jamaica gain by removing the king? To which Ms. Malahoo Fort was basically saying about how the country is furthering its goals as an independent country and actualizing our Jamaican identity. Ms. McCarthy added that, we'll be truly independent with our own head of state, simply put. But I think that that's simply debatable, because if we still have the Privy Council, we're not fully and truly independent, right? And I should note, I have changed. This is not the order that, these participants appeared in. I changed it up because I kind of want to talk a little more about what certain people had to say, and this is one of them. So there was a gentleman who stood up called Andre. He presented himself as a normal Jamaican citizen, not representing any group in particular. But he said something very interesting, and that is not really, a shock, but interesting still. He was basically saying that young people don't vote, and they don't want to vote because they don't believe in the current system, because there is no accountability. And he finds it unconscionable that an executive president is being pushed while there's so many issues, so many other issues that need to be addressed, right? Roads, teachers, etc. And he said that he's not going to agree to disagree on nothing because this constitution is what's going to govern him in the future, right? It got a little bit warm. No, I say heated, but it got a little bit warm. But it is really, it's really good to see young people get so invested in this process. It's critical, actually. Another gentleman spoke. His name was Christoph Simpson from J.A. Lands. And here's what Mr. Simpson had to say. He feels there is a big disconnect with the understanding of this process because there's been no proper consultative process or proper community-based dialogue. He reiterated the fact that, wow, this is the first town hall in Kingston, and the town halls are they should be held more regularly across Jamaica, more than once, capturing different views and enabling people to speak. Because there's no guarantee, as was the case in this town hall, that you're going to get the opportunity to speak. He feels like the public is not seeing where, they can have an impact on what the options are or what the final option that's presented is. And he feels like there should have been a proper consultative process, telling the people exactly what the CRC were going to be talking about instead of a private deliberation by the CRC and then, here's a report, right? He wants to know how the views of the public are going to be quantified, and was suggesting that, look, there should have been things like non-binding referendums and other votes to establish the important questions, right? Impeachment, presidency, diaspora MPs, then a final report should come. He feels that there's a danger, right? That the final referendum will fail because there's no proper consensus. Now, he asked a question, and because of this time issue, he was told that he would only get an answer, or he was only allowed to basically get an answer to one, right? He wanted to know how much more room was there to engage the CRC, and what would be the process of engaging Parliament during the joint select committee process. So, Ms. Malahoo Fort responded that she feels there's a gap in the knowledge in society, and time has been taken to explain the process and all available means to make information available has been undertaken, but not everybody is paying attention. And I beg to differ. The public education campaign is not satisfactory, and that day, in Kingston was verification of that, right? The first time you have a town hall, brethren, in the capital city of the country, a year after the process has started, that not got it at all. Sorry. So, she did go on to say that we can't afford to just continue to talk about this process, but not talking the guan yet. There's a whole heap of public education that really needs to be ramped up, big time. Mark Cameron of the Up Jamaica movement, he thinks that, again, there's a disconnect, and feels like the general public are thinking very differently to what this report is putting out, and that more accountability is needed from a directly elected president with consequences. Ms. Malahoo Fort did point out actually that MPs are directly elected, but yes, while they are, there is no accountability. And this follows on to the next person who spoke, who was Jeanette Calder from JAMP, Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Now, Ms. Calder said she was very disappointed actually with the issue of accountability in the report, and that the will of the people is not being reflected because there is no provision in the Constitution for the removal of a parliamentarian when there's no performance or where there is misconduct. And it's been agreed to, it has bipartisan report. So back in, and I'm basically still, this is Miss Calder still talking here, but she was referencing a bill back in 2011 by Bruce Golding that would remove members of Parliament for non-performance or misconduct. And the Prime Minister basically committed to that in 2016. Now, fast forward to 2021, and the opposition leader, Mark Golding, tabled a bill in Parliament on this same impeachment matter. Ms. Calder also referenced a Don Anderson poll last year that recorded 88.8% of Jamaicans believe that if an MP is not performing or there's been misconduct, that they should be able to be removed from the House. But Ms. Calder did point actually to the fact that there is a proposal to remove the President for misconduct or neglect of duty. So you can remove a president. She referred to a 2016 Local Government Act where you can remove a mayor for misconduct or non-performance. So she's saying, why can't there be a provision to move members of Parliament as well? So Ms. Malahoo Fort responded basically saying that, this right here is about phases, and we're in phase 1. And we're focusing on deeply entrenched provisions. But she also added that the impeachment process, it's political and it doesn't really achieve the goal, and that a proper and effective way is needed to hold MPs accountable, and the work should be continued in that respect. I have a simpler answer to that. The 2021 bill tabled by Mark Golding could be debated. The bill was originally drafted by Bruce Golding, and Mark Golding actually expanded on it and presented the bill, which was tabled in Parliament on April 28, 2021, and it's still sitting there, waiting to be debated. The title of the act is an act to further amend the Constitution of Jamaica in order to provide for the impeachment of senators and members of Parliament. And it starts out saying, whereas senators and members of Parliament are required to be accountable to the people and to serve them with the utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency. Recommendations of that constitutional commission were endorsed by a joint select committee. And it says if a senator or an MP is found guilty of an impeachable offence, they are removed from the House and their seat becomes vacant. So what are these impeachable offences? It lists 5 of them. Corruption or misappropriation of public funds or property, the refusal to exercise or persistent neglect in the exercise of the duties of responsibilities of the office held by the senator or the MP, abuse of official authority, deliberately misleading or intentionally abusing the privileges of Parliament, or egregious misconduct or other misbehaviour unbeholden of the office of the senator or MP, which is also so serious in nature as to render the holder of the office unfit to continue to hold the office, or to bring the office held by the person into disrepute. Accountability. The public and the private sector are demanding it. May 19th, 2023, in the Jamaica Gleaner, there was an article called Pass Bill of Impeachment, where basically the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association and the Private Sector Organisation of Jamaica, two powerful private sector bodies, are urging the government to proceed swiftly with legislation to indict corrupt politicians. They also added that the government should implement key performance indicators and job descriptions for all parliamentarians and ministers. October 2, 2023, the Gleaner actually referenced a Don Anderson poll which said 88.3% of Jamaicans are in support of the impeachment of MPs. There's a lot of reasons for accountability, and the debating of this impeachment bill is really, it's important, it's urgent. Almost $100 billion is sucked out of the national economy as a result of crime and corruption. And it's a shame because, unfortunately, this behaviour, it ain't new. We can go as far back as Bustamante's administration, right? 2 ministers were actually convicted for grafting and corruption. They were education ministers who sold special tickets for farm work in the US. We can take a look at some more recent public scandals. Wallan, people, Wallan. More recent public scandals. Let's start. December 1991. Minister of Mining and Energy, Horace Clark, he resigned over a scandal involving a waiver of 29.5 million in duties that Shell Company of West Indies should have paid to the government on imported gasoline, but he actually remained a member of Parliament. In 2001, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Errol Innes, resigned following gambling checks that he bounced. Dr. Carl Blythe in April 2002 as the Minister of Water and Housing. There was improper behaviour over an Operation Pride program that he resigned over. October 2006, Information and Development Minister Colin Campbell was forced to resign over the Trafigura matter. October 2007, Kent Spencer resigned as a parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Science. That was the Cuban light bulb scandal. July 2009, Jamaica Labour Party's State Minister for Transport and Work, Joseph Hibbert, resigned after he was named in a corruption probe by investigators in Britain. May 2010, Government Senator and State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Dr. Ronald Robinson, resigned over the Dudus matter. November 2011, Transport and Works Minister Mark Henry submitted his resignation over revelations that more than 60 million was spent on furniture for the NWA's offices. September 2013. Richard, you tired yet? September 2013, Richard Azan, Junior Minister in the Ministry of Transport, Works and Housing, resigned under public pressure over his role in the improper construction of shops on land owned by the Clarendon Parish Council. Apparently he was reinstated by Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller after the DPP announced no criminal charges would be laid. July 2018, Science, Energy and Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley resigned in the wake of a scandal regarding Petrojam. And March 2019, the former Education Minister Reuel Reid, Caribbean Maritime University President Professor Pinnock, Reid's wife Sharon, their daughter Sharelle, and Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Brownstown Division, Kim Brown Lawrence, were arrested under charges of defrauding the Ministry of Education and the Caribbean Maritime University, where 50 million of public funds was diverted for personal use. That was a common theme running through this town hall. Accountability and the engagement of the public. We're on the eve of another independence. And actually, when that constitution was being drafted, public engagement was problematic too. Norman Manley supported the Westminster model. Why? Because, and I quote, "all our ideas from politics come from Britain." There were views expressed at that time that there wasn't enough time given for public discussion, and to the extent that the public influenced the fundamentals of the Constitution, that was debatable. Because less than 3 hours after the opening session of the Joint Committee, the decision was taken that independent Jamaica should be a constitutional monarchy with a bicameral legislature. And 90% of the 1962 Constitution is identical with what existed before. Done. Jamaica is on the road to being a republic. Ms. Malahoo Fort opened with some words that were basically to the effect that the country hasn't been well governed, and leadership can be likened, and has been likened by some, to the colonizers themselves. You know something though? People are interested in this process and have plenty to say. And if you listen carefully, now you will hear. Tomorrow, there's at Uemona, Bruce Golding is, there's going to be a reasoning with Bruce Golding at 2:00 Jamaica time. And it's on YouTube, and I'll make sure that I post the link. I hope you're continuing to enjoy this journey, finding it educational and useful and looking forward to our continued travels on the road to Jamaica becoming a republic, truly an independent and sovereign one. And I'm still confident that we brought down Porsche is going to get fixed. You can find this podcast on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Podcast Index, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Apple, iHeart, Radio, and Amazon Music. And if you want to reason about anything or you can't find any of the material I was talking about, you can email me on atasteofja@outlook.com. So until the next time, thank you for supporting this podcast. Please share it with your family and friends. And again, I thank you for taking the time to listen. One love.